here is our comparison of the plant and animal cells. On the animal cell side, the blue cell, not always blue, but in this case it is, it has mitochondria, a cell membrane, and that's why we can move around, just like Celine said. If we only had cell walls and cell membranes, well, mainly cell walls, then we would be just like a tree. We wouldn't be able to move around. But because of the cell membranes, we are able to move freely. And we also have smaller vacuoles. As I said before, we can just go down a drink of water, while plants have to be resourceful and grab water from rain or from the ground. And let's look at the plant cell. Plant cells have both chloroplasts and mitochondria. They have cell walls and cell membranes. So it's kind of a double layer of defense and protection. But it also comes at a cost, which is why you don't see trees dancing around. And larger vacuoles, because they need to conserve that water and nutrients so that they can survive longer.
Exactly. And on to our next slide. So, we've been talking about how our plant and animal cells are different. Now, plant and animal cells, they actually belong to a larger category of cells called eukaryotes. Now, what's the other category beside the one we just said? Can anyone guess?
You're
Prokaryotes.
getting a little colder from that. Serena?
Prokaryotes.
Prokaryotics.
Prokaryotes. Yes.
So,
So
we
some of you were correct. Celine, go ahead.
so we have eukaryotes versus prokaryotes. Now, based off of the pictures, do you guys notice like anything different, like a generalized idea? Anything different between the two?
Serena, let's see. Serena?
I when I look at the pictures, what I think it's different is that the eukaryotes,
Hmm.
um, well, they look like cells, more like it looks more like a plant cell and more like an animal cell, but it's not the same as it. And also for the prokaryotes, um, that doesn't really look like a cell. It actually looks like a bug with a lot of legs climbing.
Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? May I please have one more volunteer? Actually, I will just ask someone to even out distribution. Uh, Peyton?
Eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are cell and animals, and prokaryotes looks like germs.
Yeah, some germs are prokaryotes, like the common bacteria. Very good answer, Peyton.
Mm-hmm.
Great work. All right, we can move on. So before we move on, I will give everyone a quick 5-second look at this before we move on.
And if you notice something, one looks more complex than the other, which we'll talk about later.
Hmm. All right. So eukaryotes. We have both a picture of a eukaryote and a prokaryote. Well, one of the main differences is that the eukaryotes are organisms whose cells have a nucleus. So remember the main control center of a animal cell or plant cell? It's called the nucleus, right? And it's the president of your cell. And it also has membrane covered organelles. So a membrane in a cell is kind of a thin layer that surrounds something. And yeah, when we say membrane covered, we mean a skin that determines the outside of the organelle. So you can see that the nucleus in this picture, the nucleus right there, has sort of a skin, just like your skin, that surrounds the inside of it.
And their DNA is much more organized than the prokaryotes.
Yeah. So everyone, take a close look in the nucleus of the eukaryote. That cluster, that cluster is a bunch of DNA and also your nucleolus.
Moving on. So now we're going to be talking about prokaryotes. So how are they different from eukaryotes? Well, first off, remember how we said eukaryotes have like this organized DNA? Well, prokaryotes don't. You can kind of think of their DNA as just like spaghetti strands. It's everywhere. Now, prokaryotes are also extremely simple compared to eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are more complex. And also, they don't have a nucleus, and they don't have any other organelles except for your ribosomes. Peyton, do you have something to ask?
Did the prokaryotes slowly evolve to the eukaryotes?
Yes, actually, you are right. At the beginning of life on Earth, everything was a prokaryote. But as the need for life changed, so did some prokaryotes. Some prokaryotes remained like that, but others, they turned into eukaryotes, which started forming us.
So you can say the world's very small in a way because we're all kind of connected.